Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every person's life when they stand at the crossroads of destiny and doubt. You look around, searching for a hand to hold, a voice to guide you, someone to tell you it's going to be okay. But sometimes there's no one there, just you and the silence, and the weight of your dreams pressing down on your shoulders like the world itself is testing your resolve. Let me tell you something, those moments. Those are the moments that define you. You ever stood in the mirror, staring at your own reflection, and asked yourself, can I really do this? You ever felt the sting of loneliness when the crowd walks away, when the cheers fade? When the so-called friends you thought would ride with you suddenly remember they have somewhere else to be? Yeah? That's when you find out who you are. That's when you find out what you're made of. They say no man is an island, but sometimes you gotta be. Sometimes you gotta stand on your own 2 feet, look life dead in the eye and say, I don't need permission. I don't need approval. I don't need a helping hand, because greatness isn't handed to you. It's taken, it's fought for. It's earned in the quiet hours when nobody's watching, when nobody's clapping, when the only voice you hear is your own whispering, keep going. You ever been counted out, told you weren't good enough, told you didn't have what it takes? Oh, that's a familiar song, isn't it? They'll try to write your story for you. They'll try to put you in a box, slap a label on your forehead, tell you where you belong. But here's the truth. You don't belong where they put you. You belong where you decide, I did it alone, not because I wanted to, not because I didn't need love, didn't need support, but because sometimes that's the only way. Sometimes the path to your destiny is a narrow road, and there's only room for one. You ever been afraid? Good. Fear means you're alive. Fear means you care. But you can't let fear be the boss of you. You gotta look fear in the face and say, you're coming with me, because fear isn't your enemy. Fear is your fuel. It's the fire that keeps you sharp, keeps you hungry, reminds you that you're not done yet. I did it alone, not because I'm strong, but because I had no other choice. Not because I'm special, but because I refuse to be ordinary. You think the world owes you something, wake up. The world doesn't owe you a damn thing. You want it, go get it, take it, build it, fight for it, bleed for it. There will be nights when the doubt creeps in like a thief, trying to steal your dreams. There will be days when the weight of the struggle feels like it's gonna break you. But remember this, every champion, every legend, every person who ever did anything worth remembering. They all had one thing in common. They kept going when everyone else quit. You ever felt like giving up? Of course you have, we all have, but giving up is easy. Anybody can quit. Anybody can lay down and die, but not you, not today, not ever, because you're built for this. You were born for this. I did it alone. And so can you. You don't need a crowd to validate you. You don't need applause to know your worth. The only approval you need is your own. The only voice that matters is the one inside you that says, I can. I will, I must, so when the road gets hard, and it will, when the nights get long, and they will, when the world tries to tell you that you're not enough, and it will, you remember this moment. You remember that you are the architect of your destiny. You are the author of your story, and no one can write your ending but you. Now get up, get out there, and show them what alone looks like, because alone is just another word for unstoppable. Self-reliance isn't just a trait. It's a revolution. It's the quiet rebellion against the idea that you need someone else's permission to be great. Think about it. Every time you've ever accomplished something meaningful, who was there in the trenches with you when the lights were off, when the work was hard, when the world wasn't watching, you, just you, that's the raw truth. Nobody climbs your mountains for you. Nobody fights your battles for you, and nobody will ever want your success as badly as you do. You ever notice how the world applauds the finish but ignores the grind? They see the trophy but not the sweat. They hear the speech but not the stumbles. They celebrate the victory but never the lonely hours that built it. That's because the real work happens in silence. The real growth happens when you're by yourself, staring at the mirror, asking, how bad do I want this? And when the answer comes back, when you realize you'd bleed for it, lose sleep for it, sacrifice for it, that's when you understand what self-reliance really means. It means you don't wait for the crowd, you become the crowd. Let's talk about dependence. The world trains you to rely on others, on mentors, on teams, on luck, on fate. And sure, there's strength in unity. But there's a difference between leaning on someone and needing them to stand. If your dreams can't survive without someone else's approval, then they're not your dreams. They're rentals. And one day, the lease will run out. That's why self-reliance is power. Because when the music stops, when the support fades, when the so-called allies remember they have their own battles to fight, you're still standing, not because you're arrogant, but because you built yourself to last. History doesn't remember committees, it remembers individuals, the ones who dared to step out of line, who dared to bet on themselves when no one else would. You think the Wright brothers had a cheering section when they were crashing in that field? You think Edison had a fan club when he failed 1,000 times? No. They had an idea and the stubbornness to see it through. That's self-reliance, not the absence of help, but the refusal to let the absence of help stop you. Now, I'm not saying shut everyone out. I'm saying don't let your survival depend on them. There's a fire inside you that doesn't need someone else's match to burn. And when you tap into that, when you realize you are your own greatest resource, that's when you become dangerous. Dangerous to doubt, dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to anyone who ever told you you can't. Ever watch a child learn to walk? They stumble, they fall, they cry, but they don't quit. They don't look around for someone to carry them. They get up again and again until one day they're running. That's the purest form of self-reliance. Somewhere along the way we unlearn it. We start waiting for permission, for a sign, for a guarantee. But here's the secret, there are no guarantees. There's only you and your willingness to try. The most powerful thing you'll ever hear is your own voice saying, I got this. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. And that voice, that's the voice that changes everything. That's the voice that turns dreams into reality. That's the voice that doesn't beg for a seat at the table. It builds its own damn table. So the next time you're faced with a challenge, don't look left. Don't look right, look inward. The power was inside you all along. And when you finally realize that, when you finally embrace it, that's when you become unstoppable. Because self-reliance isn't just power, it's freedom. The freedom to rise, no matter what. The freedom to win, no matter who's watching. The freedom to say, with your whole chest, I did this, me, alone. And mean it. Fear is the oldest teacher humanity has ever known. It's the fire that forged civilizations, the shadow that pushed us to build shelters, the whisper in the dark that made us seek light. But somewhere along the way, we started treating fear like an enemy. Something to avoid, suppress, medicate. We forgot its purpose. Fear isn't here to stop you. Fear is here to prepare you. It's the chisel in the sculptor's hand, the grit in the oyster that makes the pearl. Without fear, there is no courage. Without resistance, there is no strength. Think about the first time you ever tried something that mattered. Your hands shook, your stomach twisted, your mind raced through every possible way it could go wrong. That wasn't weakness. That was your body's ancient wisdom kicking in, sharpening your focus, heightening your senses. Fear isn't the absence of bravery, it's the prerequisite. The bravest people in history weren't fearless. They were the ones who felt the tremble in their bones and moved forward anyway. Let's talk about what fear really is. It's not just a feeling, it's a signal, a raw, unfiltered message from your deepest self saying, this matters. You don't fear things you don't care about. You don't lie awake at night terrified of failing at something meaningless. Fear attaches itself to what you value most. Your dreams, your dignity, your legacy. That's why the things that scare you the most are usually the things most worth doing. The stage fright before the big speech, that's because you care about being heard. The knot in your chest before the big risk. That's because you care about winning. Fear isn't your opponent. It's your compass. It's showing you where you need to go. Now, I'm not saying you should let fear drive the car. I'm saying you should let it ride shotgun. Use it, harness it. Let it remind you that you're alive, that you're pushing boundaries, that you're playing for keeps. The moment you stop feeling fear is the moment you've stopped growing. Comfort is the enemy of progress. The most dangerous phrase in any language is I'm not afraid anymore, because that's when you get lazy. That's when you get reckless. That's when you stop respecting the game. Look at any predator in the wild. The lion doesn't fear the hunt. The fear fuels the hunt. The eagle doesn't ignore the storm. It uses the wind to soar higher. Fear, when understood, becomes energy, adrenaline, focus. The difference between choking under pressure and rising to the occasion isn't talent. It's mindset. It's the decision to let fear sharpen you instead of paralyze you. Here's the truth they don't tell you. Fear never goes away. The butterflies in your stomach don't disappear with experience. They just learn to fly in formation. The greatest athletes still get nervous before the big game. The most seasoned performers still feel their pulse race before the curtain rises. But they've learned the secret. Fear isn't a stop sign. It's a starting line, so the next time fear grips you, don't run, lean in. Ask it, what are you trying to teach me? Is it warning you to prepare more, to respect the challenge, to dig deeper? That's fear doing its job, making you better, making you stronger. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. The obstacle is the way, and when you finally understand that, when you stop seeing fear as a wall and start seeing it as a ladder, that's when everything changes. That's when you realize the only thing to ever truly fear is never feeling fear at all, because that means you've stopped reaching, stopped striving, stopped living, so let your hands shake, let your heart pound. Let the fear in, then use it, burn it as fuel, let it propel you forward faster, higher, further than you ever thought possible. The fire that scares you is the same fire that will forge you. Fear isn't the enemy. Fear is the edge, and edges, well, edges cut through everything. You were born free. No contracts, no conditions, no fine print stamped on your soul. But somewhere along the way, they convinced you to stand in line and raise your hand, to ask, to wait, to hope for someone else's blessing before you dared to live. Well, here's the raw truth. Greatness doesn't knock on doors. It kicks them down. The world doesn't hand out tickets to your destiny. You take them. Think about how many dreams have died waiting for permission. How many ideas were buried because someone didn't nod in approval. How many revolutions never started because the revolutionaries were too busy asking if they were allowed. History isn't made by permission slips. It's made by people who decided their vision didn't need a stamp of approval. The Wright brothers didn't ask the sky if they could fly. Rosa Parks didn't request a seat at the front. They acted, and in that action they rewrote the rules. Here's what they don't teach you. Validation is a myth. The moment you tie your worth to someone else's opinion, you've already lost. Because opinions are currency in a game rigged to keep you small. The gatekeepers, the critics, the ones who say, wait your turn. They don't hold the keys to your future. They're just holding mirrors to their own limitations. You want to know the most dangerous phrase ever invented? Let me check with someone first. That's the sound of potential being handcuffed. Let's talk about power. Real power doesn't come from titles or trophies. It comes from the unshakable understanding that you don't need a green light to go. The system wants you to believe there's a right way, a proper path, a sequence of boxes to check. But disruptors don't follow maps. They draw them. Every industry that's ever been transformed, every status quo that's ever been shattered, it happened because someone refused to wait for an invitation. You've felt it, that itch, that pull, that quiet knowing that you're meant for more. But then the doubts creep in. Who am I to do this? What if they say no? What if I'm not ready? Here's the answer. Nobody is ever ready. Ready is a lie sold to keep you in place. The only permission you need is the kind you give yourself. The moment you stop waiting for external validation is the moment you become unstoppable. Look at the ones who changed the game. The artists who broke molds, the entrepreneurs who built empires, the voices that shook the world. They didn't have more talent. They had less patience for permission. They understood a fundamental truth. It's easier to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Because by the time the doubters catch up, you've already crossed the finish line. This isn't about arrogance. It's about ownership. About looking in the mirror and realizing the only person who gets to decide your limits is you. The world will always have reasons why you shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't. But the rebels, the visionaries, the ones who leave marks on history, they're the ones who realized a secret. Rules are just suggestions written by people who were scared to break their own. So burn the permission slips. Stop auditioning for a spot at someone else's table. The most powerful words you'll ever say aren't "can I?" They're "watch me." Build your own stage, write your own rules. And when they ask who gave you the right, smile and say, "I did." The fire inside you doesn't need someone else's match. The dream in your chest doesn't require a co-signer. You are already authorized. You were born approved. Now act like it. Persistence isn't just a trait. It's the DNA of destiny. The unyielding refusal to stay down. The relentless grind when the world looks away. The quiet determination that outlasts every no. Every setback. Every moment when quitting would have been easier. That's where futures are forged. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows of struggle. Not in the applause, but in the echo of your own voice whispering again. When everything else screams enough, think about the last time you wanted something so badly it hurt. The kind of desire that keeps you up at night, that turns your stomach into knots. Now think about how many people wanted it just as badly, but gave up when the first door slammed shut. That's the fork in the road where destinies divide. Talent might open doors, but persistence kicks them down. Intelligence might get you in the game, but grit keeps you playing when the score's against you. The difference between those who dream and those who achieve isn't luck or genius. It's stamina. The willingness to bleed a little longer, to push a little harder, to stand up one more time than you're knocked down. Let's talk about the myth of overnight success. It doesn't exist. What we call overnight is usually a decade of nights no one saw. The 10,000 hours, the silent sacrifices, the invisible grind. Every master was once a disaster. Every icon was once ignored. What separated them from the crowd wasn't magic. It was mileage. They kept showing up long after the excitement faded, long after their friends quit, long after logic said it was time to walk away. Because persistence isn't about motivation. It's about muscle memory. Training your spirit to keep going even when the fire dims to embers. History doesn't remember the almosts, the could-have-beens, the ones who had potential but lacked staying power. It remembers the stubborn. The ones who treated failure like a comma, not a period. Edison didn't invent the light bulb on his first try. He found 1,000 ways it wouldn't work until he discovered the one way it would. J.K. Rowling wasn't handed a publishing deal. She was rejected 12 times before someone took a chance on a boy wizard. The common thread, they didn't let the nos have the final say. They understood that rejection isn't the end. It's just the universe testing how badly you want it. Here's the raw truth. Persistence hurts. It's lonely. It's exhausting. There will be days when the doubt creeps in like fog, when the voice in your head hisses, "Who do you think you are?" That's the moment that defines you. Not when the crowd cheers, but when you're alone in the arena, bruised and breathless, and you choose to keep swinging. Because champions aren't made when the world is watching. They're made in the dark hours before dawn, when no one sees the grind but you. Persistence isn't glamorous. It's showing up when you're tired. It's working when you're uninspired. It's putting in reps when no one's counting. It's the discipline to do the boring things exceptionally well, day after day, until the compound effect turns effort into excellence. The magic isn't in a single grand gesture. It's in the accumulation of small acts no one notices. The extra hour of study, the additional draft, the one more pitch after 30 rejections. That's how avalanches start, with one stubborn snowflake refusing to quit. And here's what they don't tell you. Persistence isn't linear. It's not a straight climb upward. It's a jagged path of peaks and valleys. You'll have moments of breathtaking progress and stretches where it feels like you're moving backward. That's not failure. That's rhythm. The universe doesn't test you to break you. It tests you to rebuild you stronger. Every setback is just setup for a comeback you can't yet see. So when the road gets steep, and it will, remember this, the most powerful force on earth isn't genius or luck. It's a human being who refuses to quit. Your persistence isn't just part of the journey. It's the architect of your destiny. Every time you choose to continue when others would stop, you're not just moving forward. you're rewriting what's possible. Because in the end, the world doesn't decide your limits. Your willingness to persist does. The finish line belongs to the stubborn, to those who understand that success isn't about never falling. It's about always rising. One more time, every time, until the word impossible starts laughing at how badly it underestimated you